I was actually working at HP back in 2003, organized a game making competition to make the best possible mobile multiplayer game. And this was 2003, so this was way before iPhone, way before Android. This was when Nokia, another great Finnish company, were still making like lots of phones, and they had just come out with their first smartphones, and then wanted to create some great content, great games for those. And then Niklas, Kim and Jarno, so 3 young guys from the Aalto University, they took part in this competition, and to keep it short, they won. After the competition, they came to me and asked me like, okay, like now what? I mean, we're students here at Aalto and we won this competition, what should we do? And I actually have the same advice, or had the same advice for them as I have for all of you, that you should do what you love to do. And it was very clear that Niklas and the guys loved making games, not only playing games. So I said, why don't you start a company to make games? I mean, that's what you love to do anyway. So they started Rovio in 2003. And then over the following 6 years, they made 51 games. And then almost 10 years ago, 11th of December 2009, the 50-second game Angrybirds came out. And I think that this, again, a couple of things there. So it all started as a student project, and of course another important kind of like lesson there, that it wasn't like an overnight success story. And always then you could say that, okay, you started too early. That was before iPhone and Android, and it's this kind of like golden rule of venture capital, and it's like too early, too late. But I think that many of the success stories that we see in games nowadays, take King, of Candy Crush fame, they started in 2003. Ilkka and the guys started Sumea in 2000, I think it was, and then Sumea became Digital Chocolate, and then they, when they were done with that in 2011, Ilkka and the guys actually at Slush launched this little company called Supercell that you might have heard of, and you might have heard about Clash of Clans, Clash Royale, all of those things. And then a few years later, 10 billion, exit to Tencent. So example of super fast value creation that can happen when you create a hit like what the Supercell guys did. But then with Angrybirds, we actually the company was almost broke when we got the 50-second game out, so we didn't have any marketing budget or anything like that. So again, to make Angrybirds happen, then we used word of mouth marketing. So we told friends and family that, okay, why don't you download Angrybirds? And again, being from Finland, home of Nokia, not too many iPhones in 2009, so that made us #1 in Finland. And then after that, we became #1 in Sweden. And then during like the spring of 2010, then Apple realized there's something going on, became #1 in UK, in US, and stayed there. And I think Angrybirds stayed as #1 more than 200 days, so like quite a while. And that was also because we had built it in with that in mind. So we did updates to the game every 2 weeks, which of course now is commonplace. Games are viewed as a service. So I think that is what's the big deal? I mean, everybody's doing that, but it wasn't the case back then. And also another thing, if you look at like Angrybirds, we're also first really make a game that was instantly playable. I mean, you click, game starts, click, and you're in the game. I mean, many games from back in those days, you had to go through all kinds of like configuration and hoops, and do you want to do this and that before you actually got to the experience. Another thing that it was also a game that was built from the ground up for touch devices, and again, now it's like, of course, I mean, why would you, not build a game so it makes use of, touch and like everything. But this was like early days of the iPhones. A lot of games were just, like you converted something from a console or PC, and then the controls like really sucked and was not very enjoyable on like a touch device. So again, it's good to kind of like remember that things were a bit different like 10 years ago.